Hi, my name is Sam Namek and today I'm going to show you how to create a high available file shares. So first let's look at my diagram here. I do have a Hyper-V machine that has 4 virtual machines here. I do have a domain controller and 3 member servers. They're all Windows Server 2012 and my domain name is samnamek.com. And let's see here. In order for this to work, um, I have used the iSCSI target on the storage here, and these two cluster nodes, they're gonna use the iSCSI initiator to connect to the storage on the storage virtual machine here. So let me show you the virtual machines here first. Let's jump to the Hyper-V machine, and as you can see I have 4 virtual machines here, and let me show you the virtual machines themselves. So I do have if we look at the diagram again, you can see the domain controller IP address ends with 10, the storage ends with 11, and the cluster nodes ends with 21 and 22. Alright, so if you look here on my remote desktop connections, you can see this is my domain controller here and ends with 10. This is my storage 11, 21 is the first cluster node, and 22 is the last or the second cluster node. Alright, let's jump right away. First I'm gonna need to create on the Hyper-V machine, I'm gonna need to create a hard disk for the storage. So let's see here, new virtual, okay, it should be VHDX, dynamically expanding, that's fine. And let me change the name of it. Let's see here, let's call it, let's see what I have here on my notes. Storage disk, yeah, that's what let's see, storage disk, and let's save it on where my storage virtual machine is. So next, yes, blank, and finish. Okay, now let's see here. Okay, I'm gonna need to, first of all, I think I need to, let's see here, storage settings. I'm gonna need to load this disk here. So SCSI controller, hard disk, add, oh, that's my phone, add the virtual disk, where is it, storage, and there you go, storage disk, open, apply. Now I should have it in my storage. So if I go to the 11 machine, and if I go to tools, computer management, and disk management, and as you can see, this is the disk. So I'm gonna need to bring it online first, then initialize disk, MBR is fine, and I have to create a volume here. Yeah, I use all, assign it to you, that's fine, and quick format, that's fine, finish. Alright, formatting. Alright, it is healthy now. Okay, next I'm gonna need to add the iSCSI target role service. So add, next, role based, yes, that's local machine, and let's see here, the iSCSI target server, as you can see. Next, next, and install. This is gonna take some time, so I'm gonna pause the recording and come back once this is done. Okay, this is done. Let me close it. Okay, now if we go here to the file and storage services, and if we go to the iSCSI here, alright, now I'm gonna create a virtual disk, which is gonna be the quorum disk first, and with the wizard that I'm gonna use to create the virtual disk, I will be able to create the iSCSI target. So let's try to new iSCSI virtual disk. Okay. Alright, so it's gonna be storage 1. That's my server name. It's gonna be on the E. That's the disk that I just added to the virtual machine, and I initialized and formatted. Next, let me give it a name. So this is the virtual disk name. So this is the first one, the quorum disk. So let me call it quorum. Okay. Size, let's give it only 1 gig. Okay, since I don't have any iSCSI target, now I'm gonna create the iSCSI target here. New, I'm gonna give it a name. Let's see, let's call it cluster storage. Okay, next. Click to add the initiators. So basically, I have to add initiators to this iSCSI target, which is gonna be the, let me show you here, these two, because basically the iSCSI target will need initiators in order for those machines, the nodes, to access the storage here on the target. Alright, so it's gonna be I am going to use the IP addresses here, so the one that ends with 21 and 22. Alright, let's go back to the storage machine here. I have to select by IP address. So 192.168.1.21. That's the first one. Okay. Second one, also same thing, IP address 192.168.1.22. Next, I'm not going to use any authentication. Just keep the default simple. Create. This shouldn't take long. This shouldn't take long. There you go. Close. Now I do have my quorum here that is connected to this iSCSI target, as you can see. Now what I'm gonna need to do is create the storage for my cluster. So again, a new virtual disk, same thing, to the drive E. Let's give it a name. Let's call it storage. Next, let's give it like, let's say maybe 50 gigs. Now I don't have to create a new iSCSI target since I do have it here. Next, and you can check, that's fine. Create. All right, let's see. Okay, so next I'm gonna need to basically start the initiators on the cluster nodes, and from there I have to basically use these storage disks, virtual disks. I'm gonna need to bring them online, initialize them, and format them so I can use them in my cluster. So first thing I'm gonna go to the first node here, and from the tools menu I'm gonna start the iSCSI initiator. Yes, run the service. Let's see. Okay, so what is the target? It's the IP address, so it's 192.168.1.11. Quick connect. Yes, done. and you can see now it's connected. I have to go to the volume and devices and click auto configure. That will bring my disks to this machine, so you can see them here. If I go to computer manager or computer management, and disk management, you can see the disks here. This is the quorum. You can see 1 gig and this is 50 gigs. So online, now initialize both MBR, that's fine. Okay, so now both are initialized. I'm gonna create simple volumes here for both. Quick format, finish. Okay, this one is healthy. Let's go to the next one. No, simple. Yes, and format also. This is gonna take some time to format. Let's go to the second node and let's do the same thing. Initiator. Let's go the initiator. Yes, start the service. Same thing, 192.168.1.11. Quick connect, done. Volume and devices, auto configure to bring the disks there. So if I go to computer management, and disk management, hold on just a second, let me just make sure that the other one is done. Yes, it is healthy. Okay, let me minimize. Where is it? 22. Okay, I need to bring those online. And there is no need to initialize our formats since it's already done from cluster 1. Okay, let's see what is next. Okay, so next basically we're gonna need to install the file server role service and the failover cluster feature. Alright, let's start from node 1 here, or cluster 1. Close this, I don't need it. Cancel this. Okay, so let's see here. Manage, add roles and features. Next, role based. Next. Okay, so the file server should be here. There you go. That's the role service. File server role service. Next, now the feature. Where is the failover clustering? There you go. Add all necessary features. Next, and install. Let's do the same thing on the other machine here, the 22. So manage, add roles and features. Next, role based, local machine, and let's see here, file server. You can see it's the file and storage services, then the file and iSCSI services, and the file server. When I'm gonna create the cluster, and basically when I'm gonna create the file, let's say the cluster role, you'll find that file server role there. So that's why we need to install it from here. Let's see. Next, failover clustering, add features. Next, and install. Now this is gonna take some time, so I'm gonna pause the recording and come back once this is done. Okay, so installation done on both of them. So I'm here on machine cluster 1, which is the first node. Let's go to tools and let's start the failover cluster manager. So first thing that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create the cluster, and I'm gonna add the two cluster nodes to the cluster. I'm gonna give it an IP address. Let's see, and maximize. So create cluster. Next. Okay, server name. Those basically the cluster nodes that I'm gonna need to add to the new cluster. So first one is cluster 1. That's the name of the machine. Now you have to, actually you don't have to, I mean what I'm trying to say is the cluster will need to have the fully qualified domain name, but it's gonna figure it out by itself. So as you can see, now it has the FAQDN, and cluster 2, there you go. Next. Oh yeah, now I'm gonna need to do the configuration validation tests, and this is gonna take some time, folks, so let's just get it started. Then I'm gonna pause the run all test. Then I'm gonna pause the video and come back once this is done. Next. And the test has started. Probably will take maybe 5 to 10 minutes maybe, or maybe less. It depends on the machine, but I'll come back once this is done. Alright guys. Alright, so the test has finished, and all tests completed successfully, which is very good, because now I can do the cluster, although it came back with a warning. Let's see. The warnings really doesn't matter. I mean, it's not doesn't matter, but it's not gonna affect the creation and the using of the cluster. It's only something that you need to consider. So it's under the network section. As you can see, the warning here, everything else is passed. Let's see, validate network communication. This is basically because I do have only one NIC in each node of the cluster, and this is kind of like what the test is saying. It's because because it is only one NIC on each machine. This is kind of like a single point of failure. So it's recommended that you have 2 or more, so that you can avoid that that problem if something happened to the NIC of the machine. That's not gonna bring the node down basically. But for the lab test is really, I mean, that doesn't really matter, so just we're gonna continue with that. Alright, let's give it a name. This is the cluster name, so let's call it main cluster, and let's give it an IP. Let's give it 50. Next. And yes, add eligible storage. Next. And that shouldn't take long. Let's see here. Some people, they really, I mean, they kind of like, they don't understand what is exactly the iSCSI. Basically, if you don't have SAN environment, which costs a lot of money, you can really use this because it's much cheaper and the performance is really good. Alright, this is done. Okay, let's see here. So there you go. This is the cluster. Let's expand this and this and this. Okay, so as you can see, right now I don't have any roles. That should be empty. No items found. Those are my nodes, and you can see both are up, cluster 1 and cluster 2. And this is the storage. So this is the disks. This is my quorum, and this is an available storage. I'm gonna need to add to cluster shared volumes. There you go. Now this is saying cluster shared volume, which is good. Okay, let's see here. Hold on just a second. I think I need to go to roles. Yes. Let's configure a role here. Next, it's gonna be a file server. Remember, we installed the role service earlier. It's gonna be the scale out because that's what we want to do. And let's give it a name. Let's call it high available file server. Okay. Next. Finish. Alright, so this one came up. Next thing that I need to do is to create file share. So right click, add file share. This probably, I don't know if it's gonna work really quick. Yeah, there you go. It says the client access point is not ready to be used for share creation. So basically I'm gonna need to give it a few minutes and come back once this is done. Just like a couple of minutes, I think, maybe like 5-6 minutes. So let's just wait for that. I'm gonna pause the video and come back once this is okay. You know what, while we are waiting, let me bring the this shape here, or shapes. I just need to explain to some people that they don't really understand what is the iSCSI target or the initiator, because maybe they never use them. I don't know, but basically if you compare it to like any regular network, you know, you have computers and you have switch or whatever, and let's say that you have a network drive, and basically that network drive is connected to the switch and the computers are connected to the switch. Now the computers will have access to the storage on that network drive. So in contrast with the iSCSI, basically let's say this shape here is my virtual machine right now that I'm using, or let's say it's the computer that holds the storage. The storage can be a hard drive or any other means of storage that have let's say the machine has direct access to it. And the iSCSI target is kind of like the switch, you know, or let's say it's kind of like, if it's a SATA drive, that would be like the SATA controller, you know. And basically the computers that are connected to this machine, they'll be connected to the, well, it's not going to be directly like that, but each computer is going to, the network cable is going to be like the iSCSI initiator, or it's kind of like a protocol that will communicate with the iSCSI target. And basically when you are able to communicate with the iSCSI target, then you will have access to that storage. Maybe I'm not explaining that really good, but that's how I look at it really. But it's like the technology under the hood, I really don't know anything about it or how does it work. So it's just like a comparison, you know, if you want to kind of like have a glimpse of what is the iSCSI. Alright, let's see here. What is the, I was working on this one. Is it done? Let's see. Add file share. Nope. Alright, I'm gonna pause the video again and I'll give it like 5 minutes and come back. Okay, let's try it now. Add file share. Okay, it is working. Perfect. So now I have to select one of these. I'm gonna select the SMB share applications because that's what I want to do. This is basically, you want to use it when you have like SQL Server database that you want to store it, or maybe an Exchange mailbox, or any high available file that needs to be open most of the time, or let's say, or any kind of a file really that maybe um, let's say big files that you want to be able to access all the time, because it usually takes time to transfer between the client and the storage. So that's what I'm going to use, the applications. Alright, so yes, this volume. Next. Alright, let's give it a name. Let's call it VM store. That's the path that you need to remember, this because I'm gonna use it to transfer a file to this place, basically to the storage on this path here. Now let me try to copy it. I don't know if it's gonna copy to the other virtual machine, but let's see. Next. As you can see here, the enable continuous availability, that's the one that we are looking for. And since it says scale out, basically I really will not be able to show you how traffic can expand or scale out to multiple nodes at the same time, because I don't have this kind of a traffic, but I will be able to show you the continuous available cluster when I'm gonna do the copy of a big file. Alright, next. Oh, before I hit next, other options. This one is for permissions. The enumeration basically is for users. They will be able only to see what they have permission to see, as that goes for folders or file names, you know, listed in the tree. But if this is enabled, they will not be able to see even other files by other users or folders. This is for caching. Basically all these options you can manipulate them later when this is created, and this is for encryption if you want to encrypt the data. Next. Yeah, accept the default permissions, they will do just fine. Next. And create. Close. Okay, so now if I go to the shares, you can see that here I have the VM store. Let's see if I can browse it from here. No, I cannot. Okay, let's open computer, and I copied the path, so paste, and you can see it. I have access to it through network. Oh, anyways, let's close this. Now let's test this out. So let me show you exactly how this is gonna work. So what I'm gonna do, first thing, let me show you here that on the roles here, as you can see, this is the file server role, and it says it's a scale out file server, and the current owner, the current node owner of the cluster is cluster 2 machine, which is, this is cluster 1, 21, so cluster 2 is the other one here, 22. So if I start the failover cluster manager here, okay, let's maximize. Let's open this, expand. Okay, so roles should show the same thing. There, as you can see, cluster 2 is the owner, which is this machine here locally. Alright, let's minimize this, and let me bring the cluster 1 node, and let me just restore it to this and put it here, and let me open the Hyper-V machine. Also let me restore it to this point here. So what I'm gonna do, since cluster 2 is the owner, so this is cluster 2, I'm gonna go to the settings of the virtual machine, and I'm gonna go to the network. Then what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna change the switch to not connected, so it's kind of like I'm disconnecting the network cable on the virtual machine, but from the switch side. Okay, let me just make it available here. Then I'm gonna just hit apply to do that. So this is cluster 2, as you can see. Now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna open a machine here on my laptop, which is also Hyper-V machine that I'm running here, and let's see here, I'm gonna go to my laptop. There you go, Sam laptop, and let me go to my, there you go, Windows Server 2012 there. Okay, this is the first one. Second one is gonna be, let's see if that is gonna work here. Yes, perfect. So this is my high available file share here. Now let me restore it here. Let me put it here. Hold on just a second. There. Okay. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna copy this file from my Hyper-V machine on my laptop. It's a virtual machine also. So I'm gonna copy the file from this machine, not really from this machine, the file actually is on my laptop through this link. So it's a network from my laptop to this virtual machine on my laptop, and from this machine is gonna go to the high available cluster share that is currently owned by cluster 2 here on the destination machine on my lab Hyper-V machine. It's kind of like long name, long path, but let's work it out. Let's see here. So let me start the copy. Alright, so as you can see, the copy process has started. Now this is what I'm gonna do. I want you to watch this. I'm gonna disconnect the cluster 2 virtual machine from the network switch here. So if I hit apply, look what is gonna happen. You see that? Went to 0 but did not disconnect. So if I go to the, as you can see, the owner is still a cluster 2. That is gonna change by, if you just look here, you're gonna see that will change to cluster 1. Once this is changed, there you go. Now this is start the copy process again without disconnecting. But this one is not refreshing really quick for some reason. Let me refresh it manually. Just a second here. Maybe if I right click here. Oh, okay, let me maximize and hit a refresh here. That should change to cluster 1. Still not updating, but it kind of like it's doing its work. There you go. It changed to cluster 1. And the copy process is still ongoing, as you can see here. Alright, now this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna restore the connection. No, not this one. It's the other one, the external. Yes. Apply. You'll see this will not be affected because the cluster, where is it? The cluster is still on number 1. It's not going to change that quick. And you can see here the cluster 2 is still down. Once this is up again, you see that it went down because the cluster is working on restoring this node, so just kind of like degraded the performance just a little bit. Alright, so we can check also if cluster 2 came back online now. Yes, this one did not refresh. Let's see, refresh. That should reflect to cluster 1, unless for some reason it's showing cluster 1 as the one that is down. There you go. No, that's the correct one. Yeah, you can see the owner is cluster 1, cluster 2 is down. Okay, so what I'm gonna do I'm sorry, what I'm gonna do right now, from cluster 1, this is the 21 machine, that's cluster 1. I'm gonna right click here on the role. I'm gonna say move the owner of the cluster to another node. So here, cluster 2 still did not come up, so that's why it's not showing here. I have to wait for it to come up. I'm just hoping that will not finish before I do the the node transfer. Let's see. Oh, there you go. It's coming up. Alright, it's up again. So now if I right click and select move to another node, you can see I can select cluster 2. Now what I want you to look here, you'll see something is different from the first time that I when I disconnected the cluster 2 node. Look, if I click OK, right away that is gonna change to cluster 2. Did you see that? It did not take that long to come up again. Now the reason why, I'm not sure really, but I think because this is kind of like when you plan to make a node offline, you first transfer, if it's the active node, what do? You transfer the owner of the cluster to another node, then you bring the that node down for maintenance or other stuff. But the other one, when I disconnect it, it's kind of like when you have like a problem, maybe a disaster or something, not disaster, but let's say someone unplugged the computer, or the power supply went out or something. So for a planned one, it's easy to transfer the owner, because basically I don't know how it works like under the hood, but it's easier just to, you know, say to the other node, take over. And since this is a scale out, it's happening really fast with the I think because of the SMB3 protocol, the new one that is being used. So when it's unplugged, like the other machine, it's just waiting for the other machine to come up, the cluster itself. Once the cluster determines that machine is not coming up, then it's gonna just transfer it to the other node. Yeah, so I'm thinking that this is the reason, but I'm not sure though. So that's up to you to research. Alright, I hope that was helpful, and please leave any comment on my blog, and have a good day or a good night. Thank you.